Well, hello. This is Brandon Farr with Level Up Strategies. What we're doing here today is just doing a quick run through on some of the gear that we've used doing energy audits as an energy advisor. And my hope here is to save you a ton of money and really focus on the parts of the equipment list that Enercan gives you that you're actually going to need. Now, understand that this has been our experience. You do what's going to be right for you, but what we've found is that there's a lot of things on the list that you don't need. And what I did, I was like, hey, I want to do this really well. I went on the list and I got every single thing, spent a bunch of money, and don't end up using it. Now, I can justify this in some sense because a lot of the tools have some overlap with the contracting services we supply as a builder, but I didn't need to spend the money, and so I hope you don't either. So let's jump right in. So on the list, what I decided to do is, hey, I'm going to go into somebody's home. I want to bring everything with me, so I got myself a really handy bag, and I said, hey, look, I can take this, carry it on my back if I need to. I got all kinds of plans for that. Tape measures on the outside. We got that thermal imaging camera. We got a laser measuring tape, and then I went ahead and got an upgraded laser measuring tape. Spent $300 on this guy because if you've ever used one of these, you're going to turn it on, you're going to go on a nice bright sunny day and go, where is my laser? And Bosch made this one with the screens with a crosshair, so it's easier to see. And while it's good, I don't think it's $300 good versus this one that I had. And I would suggest to you that if you should have a laser measuring device. You don't need anything complicated. This one Bluetooth to my phone, I don't care. I don't use it. I don't use that feature. Simple, straightforward. The fact is, no matter how much money you spend on your device, on a bright sunny day, 20 feet might be the distance that you get to see that laser. So on a long building, you'll break it up into 20 foot, 20 foot, 20 foot sections. Do the simple math and you'll get your equation. You'll find that using these, some of the hardest measurements, if the back of the truck was the corner of the house, is the outside to outside measurements, because you need something for the laser beam to bounce off of, like this. So there's going to be elements where you're going to end up going to your trusty tape measure, corner to corner on the house, or concrete crack to concrete crack on the patio, and you're going to end up adding the total length together anyways. All the inside measurements, like when you shoot back towards something, even if it's a small distance, these work just fine. And what I ended up doing is using my little, you can't see anything on that if I show you the cover, but I'll show you an exact how we capture our data, is just a very coarse outline of the house right here. And I'll draw it out as I walk around the house and get the details and just scribble my measurements down really loosely on here. I'm not aiming for straight lines. I'm aiming for accurate measurements. And then what happens when we go back to the office, we have a floor plan app here, and I'm able to really accurately trace out the building envelope. It'll auto-calculate square footage and perimeter and volume, which I've personally found very helpful, because if you've ever tried to do square footage calculations on a house by hand, it's complicated and it takes time. So when I'm doing, so again, that's the laser measuring device, and I can tell you, this is all you need, and this is all you need. So far, that's about $600. That's about $300. You don't need them. This backpack, I had this grand idea that I'd carry it around with me and have everything that I needed that Enercan supplies on the list. I figured, hey, handy 12-volt drill with all the available bits, and then I was going to do this, all the screwdrivers and whatnot, and then these, depending upon what I expected to encounter, I can take all the mechanical systems apart and get access to the internal measurement. I haven't needed any of this, any of it at all, which meant that all the money that I spent on this kit is essentially useless. This is what I end up doing when I go to my job site. If you really even need a stud finder, this is another example of, there's typical construction, and if you've done a couple of energy audits, you're going to know studs are on 16 or 24 inch centers, and that's standard. It's very rare that there's a deviation, and if there is, you can spend some time to figure it out with a tape measure, and sure, this is decent to have, but I've never pulled it out. The clients aren't expecting to see it. So anyways, I'm saying that because if you can save yourself $1,500 by the time you add all this up, it's just not necessary. Like, I think a peripheral item that I would suggest, that this is, again, we do inspections in our contracting business, so I've learned that photos, when I get back to the office, I don't always remember them, so I can do something like label furnace 1 and label furnace 2, and then take a photo, and I can remember when I'm back in the office what the photo reflects. So I would say having a piece of tape or a roll of tape is handy, one that's, you know, easy to peel off and not going to wreck the paint. But truly, 99% of our inspections, a tape measure that goes right here, laser tape measure in the back pocket, and a headlamp for when I go in the attic is all I need. I'm walking around with this in my hand, keeping track of my measurements. We do our inspections in tandem, so I have somebody with me. We have a digital spreadsheet data collection form that we use just because it's easy and accurate. So while I'm walking around measuring, you know, windows and doors, they're tracking those, and that's it. I didn't need any of this. I'm not saying don't buy it. I'm saying save yourself $1,500 if you want to. So then let's carry that forward. A couple of things that I did find useful that I'm going to share with you just circumstantially is a first aid kit and wet wipes. Now, these aren't on Enercan's list, but after you've carried an aluminum ladder around, your hands get that gunk on them. Well, being able to wash your hands is really nice when you're walking through somebody's home. And what I didn't anticipate is pulling the furnace grates on and off. There's a lot of sharp metal edges, and I've cut my finger a couple of times, just a little paper cut, but if it starts to bleed, it's a problem when I'm in somebody's home. So go to the truck, throw the Band-Aid on, and I can complete the inspection. I'm saying that, it's just handy. That's what it is. So having one of these with Band-Aids, brilliant. Okay, let's jump into the energy auditing gear. Now I'm gonna tell you another piece of gear just to get it out of the way that we don't need. I went ahead and bought one of these really fancy smoke machines because I frankly thought it was cool, and I had a vision for what it was going to look like when I went into a house and did a blower door test, and being able to see air movement around doors and windows. And this little contraption's fun, but at $900 for a good deal on a real legitimate smoke machine, again, a complete waste of my money. I had a vision for what I was going to do. It just didn't materialize. I pulled this out on one particular project, very first energy audit that I did, because I was just keen to use it. And sure enough, you can see the air movement as it cycles in the corners, and it was a log home and it was leaky. So, wow, there's a visual. But the brass tacks is that the owner didn't expect it. He wouldn't have been upset if I didn't pull it out. You can go to the dollar store and get a big big feather, one of those fake feathers with all the little hairs on it. And that's sufficient to demonstrate when there's air leakage, because those little fibers will move. And save yourself $1,000. And unless you want to, you can buy this, of course, but you're not missing anything if you don't have it. I'm going to say here's the exception to that. If you get into energy advising and you're going to do something for builders, like a mid-construction blower door test, and they're wondering why the air exchanges are 4 when they intended to have 2. Something like this would be very useful in that sense, because then you can get really precise on what window's leaking, what fixtures are leaking. But what I've discovered in my journey as an energy advisor is that most of the calls we get are for people that want to access grants for either windows or photovoltaic installation. So all we're doing is checking a necessary box for them. They need an energy advisor to come in before and after, so they're not necessarily concerned. It won't be a problem if you show them where the air is leaking with smoke, but again, $1,000. They're not paying you any more to have it. So that being what it is. So something else that was really profound revelation for us, I have a Toyota Tacoma, I got a 6-foot bed, and I mean, like, how much space do I need for the gear? I have good news for you. It works here, but it also works in a Honda Civic or a Nissan Pathfinder. One of the real gifts of being an energy advisor is that you don't need a ton of space, tools, equipment outside of your blower door, your ladder, and and your monitor, you can be really flexible in the vehicle you use. So price of gas being what it is, you can definitely run a fuel efficient vehicle as long as you have a decent sized trunk. So it's all packed here, and I wanted to show you what it looks like in its finished form. So again, today you can get collapsible ladders, which again, this will fit in a Honda Civic, which is brilliant because think about what you're trying to accomplish with being an energy advisor. You need to get into the attic. Now, most ceilings are 8 or 9 feet high, which means that you need to be able to get up there plus about 2 feet past that in order to poke your head in the attic, take a look around, take some measurements, and then come back down. Something like this is super easy to move through a client's house. It's also super easy to put in your car. So save yourself some money if you don't need to go buy a second vehicle for this. There you go, just some heads up, this is what it takes. I mean, the biggest piece of equipment that you're gonna have in terms of overall height is this guy. This is the frame for the blower door. My friend Dapo showed me how I could wrap up the sheet for the blower door inside the cover for my fan, which I thought was pretty slick. So able to keep that handy. And then the blower door itself. Now, I'm going to say RetroTech does a great job. Really happy with their product. They're going to say, do you want to get the case? I'm going to say, get the case. I'm going to say, skip the smoke machine if you don't want it, but get the case just because it protects your really fancy fan when it's sitting around in the back of the vehicle. And this is a blower door fan. Again, super happy with RetroTech. There's a couple other options that you can buy. Not saying that they're bad. I'm just saying this one is super efficient because when I put it in the screen, I pop this off, I'm ready to go. I know there's some other fans that have like different detail rings, and in order to set it up, you kind of got to unwind the whole thing, and it's inefficient. Every extra step you have to do in the setup and takedown process, and I just really appreciate that this is magnetized. It's on, it's off, it's on, it's off, and I don't have to like unscrew center rings and medium rings and outer rings every time I set it up. And another really interesting detail here that has worked for us is the monitor, because you're stuck with the monitor that you buy with your unit, and you know, RetroTech gives you a really nice little bag here. But I have to say, with this little guy, super happy. It just hangs on the door, little clip. You also can set your pressure 50 pascals, and then it has an auto -5 button, which means that set it to 50, then it auto calibrates the fan to 45 plus or minus a bit, 40, 30, all the way down to 15. And what I found we end up doing is just take pictures. So you set it to 50, boom, there's your photo, 45 photo, all the way down to 15 photo, let the fan come to a complete stop, photo of the final pressure, and you're done. A blower door test takes about 5 minutes once it's up and running. The longest and most complicated part of the whole process really is setting this frame up and the wrapping the bag and getting that installed. And if you're doing them more often, I'm going to suggest you leave your frame set up and the canvas on it loosely so that you just put it in place and you're good to go. But really happy with this. What I'm going to say you don't need is the software to the auto updated. Everything goes to the cloud. Again, I don't think Enercan and Hot 2000 rewards you for paying that extra money because all they're going to ask for you is to write down the exact pressure that you took the blower door test at. You're going to punch that in the Hot 2000. There's no way to import the auto collected data into Hot 2000 aside from manually entering it. And I found the photos are just super straightforward because I can just focus on click down once it's there, photo, click down once it's there. And I don't have to write anything. I don't have to, again, this is all about just fluid, throughput, efficient inspections. So very happy with that. I'm going to tell you the most awkward part of the whole inspection truly is the attic. Measuring the attic, because here you are, you're on the top of your ladder. You poke your head through the attic hatch, and somehow you got your headlamp strapped to you so you can illuminate the attic space and take your photo. Then you got to whip your measuring tape out, plunge it through the attic insulation, and then capture that on your phone or with a camera. And it's an awkward dance every time. And oftentimes the attic hatch is in somebody's closet upstairs, so you're kind of like leaned in on an angle, poking your head up, doing the measuring tape and taking a photo. I'm going to suggest you have a headlamp for that. Saves your hands are full. It's one of the reasons why I've been happy with, I went and got the 12 Pro camera specifically for two reasons. One, you're going to end up taking photos in dark spaces, an attic being one example, another being a mechanical room, and they're just dark, which means that low quality resolution photos suck for the auditing process. So having something that can capture the most high res in dark spaces, and dark spaces could be, you pull off the shrouding on the furnace to access the model number, serial number plate. Sticking your camera in there and hitting the button so that it can take a photo for you is super handy. Another thing that I found is really valuable is the wide angle aperture on your smartphone. I mean, it's a good excuse to have a good smartphone. I mean, they're not, buy Apple if you want to, but all the other phones take decent photos as well. But I found that particularly in the mechanical room, you often have the furnace and the hot water tank in a very small space. So you're this close to the furnace, and you got to take a picture that kind of captures the whole essence of the mechanical room and the venting and the pilot light. So using that 0.5 aperture or 0.5 focal length function is just super handy, because you get to capture kind of a floor to ceiling, wall to wall image, and that's worked for us. So aside from that, I'm going to say an average inspection takes probably an hour on site. It takes an hour and a half back in the office in HOT 2000. Again, there's people that are faster at it, but it's just a clunky program, which is why we've opted for not spending a ton of time getting a super accurate field drawing with just pen and paper, because all you need is the total numbers. Again, leveraging some software on an iPad to trace out the floor plan in a very accurate way so we could submit that for audit, but also have it naturally do the calculations for us. It's been handy and money well spent. So I'm gonna tell you right now, you can save yourself $3,000 by not buying the stuff that I told you right here that I ended up buying. So hope this helps, and all the best. We need more energy advisors, so jump in the path and be efficient as you go. Have a great day.